What is going on, you guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to give you my prediction for Dustin Poirier and Islam Makhachev that's happening at UFC 302. It's happening in a couple weeks, but I want to give you guys my prediction pretty much 2 weeks in advance, so this prediction video can kind of like digest and stuff like that. And I don't want to do it like right before the fight happens, so I'm going to give it to you today. So let's go ahead and get right into it. I'm really excited for this fight. I'm not going to lie to you, because it's a lot closer than what people really think. I understand that probably my thumbnail and my title is going to be like really like anti-Dustin Poirier, but it's not like it's a complete, it could be a complete shutout. Let me just say this right now. Dustin Poirier could get completely shut out and just out-grappled and just outclassed by Islam Makhachev. But Dustin Poirier has a lot of great things about his game that obviously that he is a lot better than Islam Makhachev. Because Islam Makhachev, even though I believe he's probably the best complete fighter in the UFC, in my opinion, like probably he is, I will have to say this. He definitely can get, dropped. I can see him get rocked. I can see him, lose this fight to Dustin Poirier, because Dustin Poirier, to me, is a better striker than Islam Makhachev. Islam Makhachev, though, the one thing that is the one glaring positive about Islam Makhachev's game when it comes to the striking is his defense. He doesn't really get hit all that much. And I understand that a lot of his fights don't really go to decision. Like, I believe before the Volkanovski fight, a lot of his fights were pretty much, early submission attempts that he got, and he was able to, I believe, get a ground and pound victory over Bobby Green. I know that Dan Hooker, he got an early submission. I believe that was in the first round, if I'm not mistaken. And Thiago Moises, he was, I believe, able to get him out in like the third round, if I remember that correctly. So a lot of his fights don't leave past like pretty much 3 rounds, if I'm being quite honest. And this could definitely be the same thing. But let's talk about one thing that I think that Islam is going to do very well. It is going to defend a lot of the strikings to the head. You know what I mean? Dustin Poirier likes to throw a lot of strikes to the head. Like, he usually doesn't throw a crazy amount of body strikes. He could for sure. Like, when he does like his barrage of punches, like, for example, when he did against Conor, he did kind of like all over the place. But mostly it was to the head. Like, he doesn't go to the body all that much in comparison to like others, you know what I mean? Especially like Charles Oliveira. Charles Oliveira likes to use his knees and utilize his knees in the clinch and go to the body. Dustin Poirier doesn't do that a crazy amount. When he throws his strikes, he usually tries to go for kill shots. He goes to the head, right to the head, and tries to knock you out cold, pretty much. That's like, I feel like that's his mindset. And he did that also against Benoit Saint Denis as well. And the fights that I watched were their last 2 fights. I watched Islam Makhachev's fight against Volkanovski, the second one, and then it fucking hurt. It really hurt to see that shit again. I really didn't want to watch it, but I was like, I guess I have to. And then I watched Benoit Saint Denis versus Dustin Poirier. And it just seems like Islam Makhachev has so much more ways of winning than Dustin Poirier. When I look back at those fights, even though I have to give Dustin Poirier a lot of credit, and I picked Dustin Poirier to win, there was a lot of weaknesses in Dustin Poirier's game, and it's been shown throughout Dustin Poirier's entire career. Dustin Poirier gets gassed, especially when somebody who is predominantly mostly a grappler, he gets gassed pretty big time. When you saw his fight against Charles Oliveira, which I watched a little while back, I believe I watched that fight before I seen, obviously UFC 300 between Charles Oliveira and Arman Tsarukyan. He struggled really like a lot with the grappling. In that second round, when he got out-grappled by Charles Oliveira, like you can tell by the third round, he was winded and he was like, just out of it, gassed. And that's why he got finished. When you see his fight against Max Holloway, he was completely different. He still had a lot of energy. He was still ready to go. And he was still, like in the 5th round, he was literally pointing to the middle of the cage and pretty much taunting Max Holloway. He's not going to be doing that against Islam Makhachev. I highly doubt it. Because Islam Makhachev, believe it, listen, he is going to grapple. I definitely see a instance where I think, for the most part, that first round between Islam and Dustin Poirier is going to be mostly standing. I can definitely see a world where that happens. But I think Islam Makhachev eventually, later on, probably in that first round, when there's probably about a minute left or maybe 2 minutes left, he will shoot. And I think one thing about Dustin Poirier's takedown defense is not the worst thing ever, but listen, he did get taken down pretty easily against Benoit Saint-Denis, and I don't think that Benoit Saint-Denis is even half of the grappler that Islam Makhachev is. Islam Makhachev is by far the best grappler that, aside Khabib Nurmagomedov, that Dustin Poirier will ever face. And it's going to be a really tough task, a tall task to try and not get taken down by Islam Makhachev, because I believe he eventually will get him taken down. I don't think he will get a finish in the first round. I think it's going to be first round. We're going to see Islam Makhachev kind of, see how he strikes against Dustin Poirier. He's going to, have the feel out process early on, and then eventually I think that he will shoot for a takedown, and I think he will get a takedown. I think he will be successful on majority of his takedowns that he does, okay? That's the biggest issue with Dustin Poirier. Dustin Poirier's takedown defense, although it's not bad, but it's not good enough to, be able to not get taken down by Islam. But Islam will get a takedown. He will get a takedown. I think that Dustin will have moments on the feet, but it's not to the point where he's going to drop Islam Makhachev. I think that Islam Makhachev will be able to take some of the strikes pretty well against Dustin Poirier. Because one thing about it, I already said it earlier, he definitely defends himself, he defends his head pretty damn well. He has his hands pretty high usually when he fights. He doesn't, and he tucks his chin, which is a really good thing by Islam, especially as of recent. You know what I mean? And I really think that is going to benefit Islam Makhachev, that he's going to be able to fend off a lot of the head strikes that Dustin Poirier, throws. And one thing that Poirier needs to do, he has to go to the body. 100% Dustin Poirier has to go to the body. He has to try and diminish all of Islam's... Listen, it's tough. This is a tough task for Dustin Poirier. He needs to find a way to tire out Islam Makhachev, especially early on, because later on this fight goes, it's going to get worse and worse for Dustin Poirier. His likeliness of winning, it goes down tremendously, because Islam Makhachev, I believe he will be able to grapple throughout the majority of the rounds. I think he will be able to, shoot for takedowns and get takedowns in the third round. If it gets past the third round, I think he'll be able to shoot and get a takedown in the fourth round. So he really needs to drain Islam Makhachev's energy, throw straights to the body, throw uppercuts to the body, be able to find a way to fend off those takedowns. But I think in the first round, Islam will win the round. I think he will have really good moments on the ground where he has good ground and pound. And I think it will be a 10-9 Islam Makhachev. Second rounds, I think Islam will shoot earlier. I think that now, since he's kind of, in that mode, and he's kind of got the groove of things in the fight, I think he will shoot for a takedown early on. I will believe in the first 2 minutes he will shoot for a takedown. And he will be successful once again. Dustin Poirier, I watched a lot of Poirier's fights for the past pretty much decade. And one thing about Poirier, especially against grappling heavy guys, does not fend off against the takedowns all that well. I mean, listen, he is going to get dominated on the ground, I believe, in this fight. And that's the biggest problem with Dustin Poirier, is that he needs to find a way to have this standing up. He has to, maybe find a shot early on, especially in that second round, where he kind of, not frightens Islam Makhachev, but he makes, Islam attentive. He's okay. Islam's okay, listen, I got hit by a big shot. I don't know if I should shoot for a takedown just yet. Maybe later on. Maybe I should fend off a little more. He has to get Islam to second think himself. And that is so tough to do against somebody like Islam, because, dude, I make it seem like Islam is, the greatest thing since sliced bread. I mean, he's a fucking great fighter, but you have to, find a way to not break Islam, but kind of have him like on the ropes and be like, okay, I can't really strike with this guy, and when he's hitting me, it hurts. I have to think of a different game plan. You have to make Islam second guess himself, and that's gonna be tough to do. Dustin could do that because Dustin hits really hard, and don't get me wrong, to me, aside maybe Volk, I even think he's probably better a striker than Volk. I think that Dustin is the greatest striker that Islam has ever faced, in my honest opinion. I think that this is the best striker that Islam has faced in his career. So that's the one thing that Dustin needs to do, is really utilize the striking, get to the body, drain his energy somehow, some way, and maybe Islam doesn't shoot. But one thing about Islam, I think Islam will eventually get a takedown. I don't think he's going to get hurt at any point in that second round, and I think he's just going to dominate him on the ground. He's going to probably take his back, and he's going to just wail on him, and he's going to just dominate him on the ground, and pretty much for the most part, it's going to be 10-9, probably damn near 10-8. Islam Makhachev, and in the third rounds, you're going to see a winded Dustin Poirier, and that's where I believe Dustin Poirier goes out. I think Dustin Poirier even gets hit by a big-time shot by Islam. He might get hit by just like a straight right down the pipe. Not get dropped, but get a little, dazed by the shot, and Islam goes for another takedown. I think ground and pound will do the trick, and it's a TKO victory by Islam Makhachev. Dustin Poirier, to me, I just don't think it's his time. I think right now we're going to be witnessing like just the peak era of Islam Makhachev, where Islam will be a champion that will defend his belt countless times. And, Arman, that's another discussion. We'll get to that fight. Obviously, I know they fought each other, and Islam won the first fight. But we'll get to that when we get there. Maybe he has a tougher time with Arman. But I think in this fight, he makes it relatively look easy. I think Islam wins this fight, and I think he wins by third round TKO, ground and pound, where he's pretty much on top mounts, full mounts, and he hits big-time strikes, unanswered strikes, and eventually they will stop the fight, and Islam will retain the title at UFC 302. That is my prediction. But the way that Dustin wins this fight, I'll give you kind of like a quick synopsis of how I believe that he can win the fight. I think that there's no shot that he wins by decision. I think he has to knock out and put away, get it like a TKO stoppage by, early on in the first 3 rounds. Especially, I would say the first 2. I think Dustin Poirier has to knock him out early on. There's no way, I don't think that I can see a world where he gets like a 5th round finish if it gets to the 5th round. I just don't see that happening. I think that he will be extremely winded at that point, really gassed. But yeah, I think that's how this fight how it goes. But yeah, let me get back to the Dustin Poirier point. I think he just has to go to the body. If he goes to the body and really just utilize different strikes and not just go right to the head and tries to just knock him out cold, I think that he could get a finish. I definitely think that Dustin could get a knockout victory. It's going to be really tough, especially a guy who is as defensively sound as Islam. But he has to find a way for Islam to open up. So I feel like he has to go to the body early on. I think maybe some body kicks here and there, some shots to the body, like some not uppercuts to the body, but like some hooks to the body, some straights to the body here and there. And then I think eventually, if he's able to, if Islam kind of drops his hands a little bit, maybe he'll be able to go for that big time strike that can rock him and maybe put him away. I think that's the only way that he wins. Other than that, I don't see him winning by decision. Obviously not by submission. I can see Islam win by any 3 ways. By TKO, by submission, or by decision. I can definitely see it those 3 ways. I don't think it's going to go to a decision anyway. I think either one of these guys are going to stop each other. But yeah. Like I said, 3rd round TKO. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Who do you guys have winning this fight? Islam or Dustin? But I see you guys in another video. God bless y'all. Peace out.